Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. В эфире программа Ushanka Show. In today's video, we're going to continue a topic that I started in my video number 155, Peculiar Behaviors of the Soviet Workers. That video actually right now is my number one trending video on Ushanka Show and got over 500 likes and 184 comments so far. So thank you so much for your interest in this topic. And we're going to talk some more about peculiar behaviors of other Soviet people. And a quick refresher. In that video we talked about Nisuni. Nisuni, it's like a plural form of Nisun. So the people, workers that were stealing stuff from their factories. As I mentioned before, Nisuni, those were predominantly blue-collar workers. So of course, obvious question, so what about so-called white-collar people, like managers, directors of the factories, and so on? Did they do anything naughty in the Soviet socialist system? And a quick reminder, a lot of times you had to be a communist to be in some kind of managerial position. So if you want to become a white-collar, a manager, director, one of the requirements, you must be a member of Communist Party of the Soviet Union. So what do you think, comrades? The Soviet communists were also doing something naughty at their places of work, where they're trying to steal something of value at the places that they managed. Well, curiously enough, Soviet people, and maybe it was even before the Soviet Union, we had this famous saying, "Селедка всегда гниет с головы," which you can translate loosely like the herring or any dead fish starts rotting from the head first. So first the head is getting bad, then the rest of the body. But before we start talking about white-collar crimes in the Soviet Union, I need to introduce you to the interesting organization that's called ОБХСС, and it's abbreviation for Отдел по борьбе с хищениями социалистической собственности и спекуляцией, which you can translate as a department. Борьба, it means usually struggle or battle, so in this case you can just say it's a department against embezzlement, or in other words maybe you can use misappropriations, but I like word embezzlement. Of the socialist property. So first of all, we have this new term, socialist property, and we have an organization, the department, that was fighting against embezzlement of the socialist property. So if we look back to the origins of the Soviet Union, beginning from revolution, October Revolution 1917, the whole idea was to destroy the old system, as they sang in the International, "Весь мир насилием мы разрушим." We're going to destroy the whole world of oppression, and then we're going to build our own brand new world on top of it. So the whole idea was that we're going to destroy all the bad things that capitalism brings, and along with it, we won't need any more army, we won't need police, and any other things, because now people will be free and life will be beautiful. And I'm very weak on all these theories, but it sounds like initially there was some kind of concept of anarcho-communism going on, so pretty much we don't need army because every worker will have a rifle, and if any problem happens, we'll all just gather together, fight the bad guys, and then we come back to our factories and continue building communism. So across the board, it was pretty much the hope that people will be self-controlling, self-organizing. So I see it as anarcho-communism. But pretty soon the reality knocked on the Soviet door, and a lot of changes started happening. We created Red Army, which was Trotsky idea, and we created OBKhSS in 1937 under NKVD cover, so that was a grandpa of KGB. They created department for battling the embezzlement of socialist property. Another interesting detail about the situation with socialist property that term didn't exist until 1932. And it's actually, I think, what I found can be credited to Comrade Stalin, that he originated that term in 1932, socialist property. And by definition, socialist property was two kinds of properties: state property, which is like all people's property, and that's land, forests, any bodies of waters like lakes and rivers, any mineral resources, factories, and so on. So that was state property as a part of the socialist property. The second part of the socialist property was collective property. So there's properties that belong to collective farms. So now we're talking anything that collective farms had: horses, pigs, whatever. And so-called, they also had cooperatives. So that was a collective property, or so-called group property. So what the government said, okay, now we have this socialist property and you can't touch this. So along with the new term socialist property, in 1932 government introduced the term хищение социалистической собственности, so the embezzlement of the social property, and it had punishment for doing that. And curiously enough, that Stalin blamed situation with embezzlement on the antisocial people, kulaks, and capitalist elements. So basically he's like, I know the workers and collective farm workers won't steal their own stuff. It's only those antisocial elements, as well as the kulaks, which is like rich villagers and people that still have capitalist mentality. That's the ones they're stealing. So we need to have a severe punishment for doing it. And if you studied Soviet Union history, you should know by now that 1932 was a pretty ugly year. That's when the starvation started in Soviet Union. Volga region, people were starving. Ukraine, people were starving. So the punishment for embezzlement of the socialist property was quite hard. It was at least 10 years of labor camps up to execution by the firing squad. So that's 1932. 5 years later, there was a special department created, OBKhSS, that had the job just to fight against embezzlement of the socialist property and speculation. So after you embezzle, a lot of people try to sell it to make profit, so that's speculation. So it started pretty much in 1932. 5 years later, ОБХСС was born. And this department was transferred later from NKVD, or as I said, KGB pretty much, to MVD, to Министерство внутренних дел, or Department of the Inner Affairs. And from there, from 1946, it was very busy all the way to 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed. By 1940, this department had 100,000 people working there. So you can imagine the scale of embezzlement going on in the Soviet Union if the department had to hire 100,000 people. And that's on the top of unofficial helpers. I couldn't call them agents. The Russian word is осведомитель. That's the people who report quietly on other people. So they had about 60,000 reporters, wink wink, on the top of 100,000 people. They were fighting embezzlement of the socialist property. So ОБХСС didn't care much about Nusuni, blue-collar workers quietly carrying stuff out of the factories. But they were watching for directors of retail stores, warehouses, pretty much all the places when upper management had access to goods, and watching that they don't do any ways they can steal products or steal cash. Actually, I just recalled there is a famous singer, Soviet singer, Russian singer, Alexander Rosenbaum, and he has a lot of songs kind of like this criminal motifs, so about life of criminals. And so one of the songs was actually dedicated somewhat to ОБХСС. It's a song about this young guy who had an amazing life. He had a bunch of money. He was buying foreign expensive goods and jeans, and he was going to the bars and dating pretty girls. And as like one of the expression, when you're rich and you don't care, you open the door with a kick. So you kick the doors, and he said, двери в бары и рестораны открывал ногой. So I opened the doors to the bars and restaurants with a kick. And then one day, a couple strangers in the gray suits visited his father, and it turned out they came from OBKhSS. His dad got arrested and sent to Siberia. They lost their apartment. They lost all their savings, and now he is poor and broke, and the girl they used to date is not paying attention to him. Okay, so now, since you guys know pretty good about OBKhSS, I think you're ready. So in my next video, we'll talk about the most famous criminal cases that happened in the Soviet Union involving OBKhSS and embezzlement of the socialist property. Okay, I hope you guys like this video, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания, goodbye. Stay classy, America. Hey, by the way, cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet